Here we are. Yeah, is it Billy Idol? Or is it your friendly GM, Macleods? I don't know. What the hell happened to my... Who gave me that light socket to stick my finger in? Jonathan? Oh, God.
No one forced you to do it.
Hey, we've gathered the best of minds here today because we're going to be playing a new... Is that upside down?
Now,
Yes.
nope.
Upside down.
Upside down. Now it's the right. Yeah, there you go.
We are playing a new system. Jonathan, what are we playing?
Star Wars: Judge of the Empire, courtesy of Fantasy Flight Games.
And it's too bad. We hear they're selling their publishing to somebody else. That's a bummer.
They are. Yeah.
We're here to save them. Is that what? No, we're just here to play their awesome game they've made. And we have a surprise guest, never made air before with us, but we have a master of this game and all the Star Wars games, right? Did I sell that too high?
Yeah, no, that'll be fine. I'll definitely
It's
live
all
up
true.
to that.
It's true. It's true. All of it.
Jeff is an incredible GM of this game. I have GM'd it before, but it's been like 3 or 4 years, and we played Mothership and Blades in the Dark and E5, Pathfinder 1, 2. It's like, oh, who got all these rules? So we figured we'd bring in some experts to talk about the rules before we play the game. Now, most of our game is going to take place in story, as you can tell from the great title that we have and the working actors in it. So that's not a surprise. What may come into surprise for you is some of the rules. So we're going to clarify some of these. And is it this easy? They got them all, Jeff?
Yeah, that's everything. Yeah, you don't need anything more than just flip through that real quick.
Mine's a little more complicated. I got this whole book I got to read, actually.
Oh, no.
Oh, dude,
It
it's
seems
just...
like a lot.
Yeah.
So, Jeff, when it comes to playing this game, a lot of us play E5. That's probably what most people play.
Right.
What are the comparisons? What are they looking at getting into this game?
I'll say that whereas D&D is a more combat-oriented game, your characters are geared for combat all the time. The big difference with Edge of the Empire and the other core rulebooks of the series is that it does leave a lot more room for intrigue and fun sort of things to happen. What it does do that is similar to 5th edition as opposed to like Pathfinder or things like that, it really does streamline combat as quickly as possible because we all know, it takes 3 hours to finish a 30-second combat and then 30 seconds to travel 3 days,
So true.
So those are the great things about it is that it really streamlines combat. And then another big difference is, and it's probably the biggest difference, is that there's proprietary dice that come with it. There's a dice app on Discord, on your phones, that's owned by Disney and all that kind of stuff. But with those, they're like storytelling dice as opposed to numbers telling you whether you succeed or fail. Little symbols tell you if you succeed or fail. And aside from successes and failures, there are also advantages and disadvantages. So even if you miss your target, let's say, if you have enough advantages left over, you can pass those along to your friends, and then cinematically, what happens is you say, well, I didn't hit that guy, but I'm clearly doing enough cover fire that it helps the next player, and they get a boost die to what they're doing. So it's all about storytelling, and then there's 2 other icons. There's a triumph on your good dice, and there's a despair on the bad dice. And that's when something narratively super cool or super bad can happen, and that's up to the DM and the players to kind of negotiate what's worth it, what's not. Like if there's a despair, usually I have, the awesome death machine range shooters run out of ammo. Things like that.
And just to clarify, you can roll both of these in the same roll, and they both have impact in the same
Correct,
turn.
and they don't cancel each other out like the other icons do. There will always be a despair and triumphs. So those are always fun to have happen. And it's always encouraged also that you don't make them so detrimental that, somebody keels over and dies or something like that. It's always something fun to
Does
keep
he know
the
us?
action going.
Exactly. You can't die in this game? What?
By
no.
you, he doesn't mean Spencer.
Yeah.
So,
Death is another cool thing in the game is that you can't die until you are naturally critted and get above. There's a whole crit chart that does weird things to you when you get critically hit, and you can only really truly die when you roll over 150, which is usually impossible the first time that you get hit with a critical. So it does follow that kind of Star Wars feel as well, that if the baddies shoot you enough to where you all lose all your hit points, you don't die, they probably capture you. They take you to a prison somewhere, and then the next session becomes a jailbreak sort of thing. So it's
Or they
very
just torture
Star
you for
Wars
life.
in the storytelling. Yeah,
In Jim Macleod's campaign, they just torture you for life in that prison. This is the last time we saw you.
yeah. And then the next campaign is just rescuing those characters.
Yep. Yeah, you roll up new people to rescue the old ones.
Or
that
more
have,
prisoners.
have anal probes,
Right.
permanent anal probes now. So, that's more Spencer's cup of tea, Jeff.
Oh,
So-
perfect.
That was a really good overview. So before we move on, though, let's talk about this dice system a little bit. You have these 8-siders that have symbols, and one is purple and one is green. And, there's a lot of YouTube, you can find what these dice mean. But how are you using them? And do you advise, by the way, you can't get these sets anymore. They're not sold. So you have to buy the Genesis set, which it's very close.
That's what I got.
So how many of these sets do you recommend everybody buy, basically?
Each player should have their own set.
At least one.
Yeah, just one, and then as you get to higher levels, you won't have enough die to be able to satisfy your own rolls. You'll need to borrow from each other. But if everybody brings one set to the table, you'll be able to accomplish everything that you need.
Is that how one of my my D12 yellows went missing?
Probably, yeah. Somebody took it. They were like, "This is
Definitely
clearly
stole
mine."
it. You don't need this, Spencer.
To be honest, I have 2 sets, and that's never failed me. And we will begin this campaign a little bit higher. We got a lot more XP up top for more obligations,
190, baby.
which will come
nice.
haunting these fools during this campaign.
Oh, by
And-
the way, so quick thing, Spencer. I will say, in regards to the dice, it's a great excuse to visit your friendly local gaming store because they'll still have a lot of
Dude, if you
have a
if
lot
you
of the
can find
historic
them,
dice.
yeah,
Yep.
get them.
So if you happen to be in Los Angeles, specifically the San Fernando Valley, here's an inside baseball secret. You can go to Paper Heroes Games on Burbank and Hazeltine, and they definitely have the OG Star Wars dice and a ton of
Did you see I was
X-wing and
taking notes?
Good to know. Oh.
yeah. No, they're great. They're great, and I can for us I can pick them up.
Yeah, I think
Actually, don't go there because I'll bought them all out.
We're
by the
gonna we're
time.
gonna buy them out right now.
Yep,
Yeah,
pretty
if
much.
you can find the Star Wars ones, they are better. Like the little Triumph has, like a lightsaber and the the Rebel Phoenix in it and everything. Like it looks great.
Yeah, it's really. I mean, and they're great dice. I at this stage, especially because in Jeff's campaign, he's been very generous with XP, and he's given us a lot of challenges. But I'm up to like 4 sets, and they're great to have. And
4
I'm
sets of
and
dice.
4 sets of dice, baby.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm good. You don't have to send me anything.
There's the alarm. There's the alarm sound. Somebody brought out 4 sets of dice. Oh God.
I
was
need
able
him
to-
now. I need him for my guy. He's
Yeah.
great.
I was able to get my original dice from getting the basic box set.
Danger.
I mean, I had to spend a little more money for like 30
Yeah.
bucks, but it came with
Danger.
it in that set.
I feel Brett and I will
Danger.
be driving to your shop. It's now a race.
Yeah.
And by the way, if you can't find the dice, and I mean just for lack of brain damage, unless you're a big fan of like the tactile, a lot of the players in our campaign they actually use the app that Jeff mentioned, and they love
Yeah.
it because it does the heavy lifting for you. Because the only, I'll say as a player, I love that the storytelling mechanics are inherently built into the dice, right? And it is very Star Warsy, whereas simultaneously terrible and good things can happen, and it keeps, it happens regularly, and it keeps everybody in their toes because, it's kind of really built in suspense with every single roll. You don't know what you're going to get. But sometimes it's tough to, especially at higher levels, to calculate all the net successes or failures or what else you have. And a triumph is automatically a success, a despair is automatically a failure. So what's your net result? The app does that for you. So
That's
it shows
cool.
you what the net results are.
Jeff, naturally, I have to ask, what type of house rules have you implemented? I have a couple ideas of my own.
So one of the house rules that we do, I know we had talked about it earlier, was when combat starts, you would roll for initiative. There are 2 ways to do that. In the book, as written, if you are caught off guard, you would use your vigilance stat, and you don't roll against anything else. You just roll your plus die, which are your yellows, your greens, and your blues, if you have any. And you just roll that if you are caught off guard. If you're the one initiating the combat, it's all about keeping your cool. So you would roll cool before you start that combat. One of the house rules that we have, just to make things easier and make it so nobody has to like dump a stat, essentially, is if you are unprepared for the combat for any reason, then you use your worst of the 2. And if you are prepared for the combat, you use your better of the 2. This sometimes gets a little complicated if your players have like bonuses to their initiative rolls and things like that. But what I tell players is use your best judgment, and traditionally, more dice is better than upgraded dice. So you like want to get more dice when you can. And technically, let's say that there are 2 yellows, 2 reds, 2 greens, and 2 purples all on the board. The odds are technically still in the hero's favor. There is a slightly better results on the player's dice than there are on the challenge dice.
Right, just because there's
are
more
the red, purple, black.
Yeah, you got
Hey, Jeff, with initiative, I read in the book actually is like whoever rolls the highest, still the group decides who goes first as a group. Do you play that way?
Yeah, as far as initiative goes, you take player slots and so nobody technically goes first. There are player slots and then there are baddie slots, and you plug those in wherever you want to each new round, and so that way it keeps everybody engaged because you can, it might be your turn next all the time, and it allows people to plan. So much like in Popcorn Initiative that some people use for Pathfinder and 5e, it's that you could like be the last in the round and then go first in the round to like really lay out some damage if you're a DPS kind of character.
And once you decide your initiative, you pretty much stick with that, right?
No,
you
he said you can change
each
it.
round for
you
the
change
players.
it.
Yeah,
Right.
I try and keep it the same guys in all of my baddie slots because otherwise I'll get confused of
Absolutely.
who's gone and who hasn't. The other great thing about your baddie slots, and I might be getting a little ahead of myself, but are the 3 different levels of baddies, because there are minions, there are rivals, and there are nemeses. And with the minions, it's like a group of stormtroopers, and there can be 12 of them, and they take up 1 slot. Just there's a ton of them. They go to town on your guys. So 1 stormtrooper, not too dangerous, but when you get them in groups, it increases both their hit points and their ability to hit you. They get extra yellow dice when they're rolling against you. So
The freeform initiative slots are great for the players because it gives them a little bit of an inherent advantage in the sense where they get to plot a little bit more. So again, it gives them like the heroic focus. Doesn't guarantee anything, but it's definitely the fact that it's fluid for them.
But it's normal for
versus
the good guys to actually talk about saying, look, maybe I should go first because I'm planning on doing this. So, okay, kind of a little metagaming type stuff is accepted. Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool. Do you put a timer on that, or does everybody just talk for 20 minutes?
I don't put a timer on it too much, but yeah, we do run it to it sometimes, usually at the top of the round. But as the combat starts to progress, everybody's kind of divvied off what their jobs are going to be for the rest of the combat. And so it gets smoother as the combat goes along.
That's
but
cool.
when they first encounter something, of course, they're like, okay, that guy looks like he has armor. That guy looks like, he has a flamethrower. Who's going to hit who? Yeah.
And I think it organically moves along a bit more too, because as people learn what their abilities are and what everybody's good at, and then they learn to talk it out, right? So hey, you know what? Can I go a little bit earlier because I'm going to do X, Y, Z? Is everybody cool with that? We're lucky. Jeff has created a very collaborative environment in the one that we play.
Yeah.
So it helps when everybody's got that cohesion.
So we have all these rarity items, right? And you have these checks for rarity. Like if somebody says, like in Pathfinder, Dungeons & Dragons, they're like, I want to belt plus, 3, because that's what E5 is, but in Pathfinder, plus 5.
Yeah.
And it's super rare. You have this chart here with like 5, maybe a black market can find it. And how often are they asking you for the maximum items? What's happening in your campaigns?
In my campaigns that I run, we don't deal with it very much. I'm pretty generous with loot most of the time. And
He doesn't know us, right, Jonathan? He doesn't know us at all.
Yeah, because 3 of our characters are like Jedi, and we're playing pretty fast and loose with all of that.
Are you playing Edge of the Empire? You're playing...
I allowed people to use all 3 different core rulebooks, so we actually have somebody from, I think, every single one. So yeah, I allowed people to use Force and Destiny because just a fun game. But in another game that I play in, it's a very Firefly-esque sort of thing where we're always scrounging for money. We're always trying to, jury rig something on the ship's always breaking, anything like that. And yeah, we are always asking our DM, like, what can I get for this much? And so there are specific people in the crew that have taken like talents that are better for underworld connections, so that they roll underworld or street underworld to figure out if they can get those black market items that have the R next to them on the equipment list. And then you also have to think about the rarity of the item, because that determines how many successes they need to get that item. If it's a above board item, it still requires a negotiation check or an equivalent that the GM has decided to find the item. Because you can see, like, grenades are super cheap, but they're not super easy to find. You can't like just go to the store and buy a whole bunch of grenades. So, and then there's all kinds of modifiers.
You might
like
find them in your first adventure when we play Jonathan. There might be grenades in that.
I'm very excited to loot what's left of wherever I'm coming out of.
Yeah,
I'm very excited. But yeah, I mean, you know, Jeff does a really good job, and you know, I have to say, again, as a player, between the dice and the rule system itself, I think it's one of the more elegant games because it's also it's inherently fair, right? Because or at least that's been our experience. And you know, obviously the strength of your GM really dictates a lot of that. But you know, Jeff is very clear about saying, look, this is a hard item. You know, these are the resources that you have to get it, right? It's not like figure it out, you know, and he'll give us the likelihood of success, you know, and then that's also mirrored in the dice, right? When he's like, cool, you're in Nowhereville and you're trying to get this thing, that'll be like 8 purple dice and a red, because if you fail, like a murderous mob comes to stab your eyes. Like, I mean, so, you know, but he's like, here's what you can do to help mitigate it, right? That's one of the cool things about the system too, you know, with this advantages and, you know, how you can, you know, either add or take away dice, and sometimes it's inherent to the characters. There are some really cool skills or talents on their talent trees that help mitigate these things, and it's great when they all come into play.
Man, I love that the blending of good and bad can happen on your same dice roll. I may borrow that for future things. Jeff, let's talk a little bit about the stats. I mean, and again, people can kind of find these things in YouTube's videos, but what is going on with these stats, just briefly?
Yeah, so when you first build your character, that's the most math you're going to have to do the whole game. It's the building of the character in the beginning. Everything after that is a lot of just rolling dice and looking at the symbols, seeing if you succeed or fail. But you have 6 main stats or characteristics, and they follow you expect to see these there, but it's brawn, it's
like
kind
strength,
of your strength.
Right, yeah.
But it also is what gives you your wound threshold, which is like your HP, and it also applies to your soak, which is like damage reduction.
So it's kind of like con and strength.
Yeah. And so that it goes a long distance. It's also, of course, for all of your melee weaponry and athletics and things like that.
Heck yeah.
You have your agility. Agility is great, especially if you're a pilot, because it goes for your flying naturally, but it also goes for ranged weapons. So if you're a pilot, you're probably going to be pretty good with a gun too.
Sharpshooter, like dexterity, like a ranger almost, right?
Yeah, exactly. So you'll focus on that if you want to have any ranged weapons. Those are all focused on agility.
And what if the rules god had a lot of intellect? That's one of the stats. What would he be good at?
So intellect is book smarts. That's your intelligence. That one's not too far off.
Also important for medicine checks, I will say. As a healer
group.
in my party, the intellect helps with fixing people's wounds, which they get copiously.
Did Jeff? Have you given away back the units in whole in this? You have?
They had to.
Okay.
It was a very interesting role where they like found a Bacta unit in a junkyard because the roll was like a mess. And I was like, you can take it, but you're still gonna have to fill it up with Bacta and all kinds of stuff. And when it's a crew of 6 plus Padawans and you know everybody else, one Bacta tank can only heal one person, and then that one person's sitting in a tank for a week, and they're like, "Do I not help? What's
Jonathan that player?"
No. So.
No, thank you very much. I don't get hurt at all.
Jonathan's
actually.
the tank.
I'm the tank.
You might have a lot of cunning. What does that skill do?
Cunning is your street smarts. So it's your ability. It's also your ability to like be heads up about everything. If it's your vigilance. It, allows you to lie, of course, and steal and all those kinds of things that you would need to live on the streets.
So if you're playing a rogue in D&D or Pathfinder, this might be your money.
That's where you want to focus.
And then we have willpower.
We got willpower, and that's your ability to resist, a lot of the things that can happen to you through the force. Ooh. It's your discipline. It's your ability to stay cool under pressure. It also is your stat that gives you your strain. So in this system, you have wounds and strain, and if you lose all your strain, you pass out. So it is still a
Does that happen to
resource
Jonathan a lot in your games? No?
Jonathan's a big beefy boy. But yes, if I do want to hurt Jonathan in any way, I go after his strain because I can usually bypass his heavy soak.
Hey, Brett, now I know.
His damage reduction.
Now I know.
Yeah.
That's right.
Thank you.
Mike,
Thank you, Jeff.
I mean, Hermes is not. He'll be easy to take out pretty quickly. To be honest.
Okay. Now
not
we
in
know.
comparison to my other character. Not even in comparison.
And presence, is this like charm, or does this have different?
That's your charm. It's your way that that's also your cool. And it's your way that you get, out of situations that, negotiation that you wouldn't necessarily want to be in. There are, and of course all of these play into your skills. It's a list of skills. All of them derive from these attributes, these characteristics.
Oh.
And so yeah, you want to make sure that you have that up if you're going to be a leader or a talkie, a face character.
Charisma.
It's your charisma. Yep.
Excellent. And then, you guys can check out all these skills, and you get the skills because of your stats, and you can look at a video about that. Thank you for that brief. That's awesome.
Real quick, there's one die we didn't talk about. That was the force die. Did we talk about that?
Oh,
The force
we didn't
die.
talk about the force die. Rules.
So the
bring
force
it
die
back.
are fun. There's another resource in the game that are called destiny points, and they are little tokens in the center of the table
We
or
call
whatever.
them star
and they,
points.
Ooh, star points.
Star points.
So they are either light side or dark side, and at any
They're all
time
dark.
a player,
Star
all dark
points
side.
are dark.
And the players will all roll a die each, and depending on how many players you have in the game, whenever we play it, I always have it whoever the session is focused on. I have them be the person to roll a single die, and then we work around that. Just so that if you're playing with 6 people, the destiny points could get up to 12,
Right.
and then they're not worth very much.
Okay.
You'd be flipping them all the time. They're supposed to be kind of this
Rare, right?
rare source. But it allows you to change something narratively in the game. There are some talents that also require you to flip a destiny point.
So let's use an example here, Jeff, because we're supposed to be using these all the time, right?
Yeah.
So, and when you use one, it just gets flipped over, and the other side gets it, basically.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
So let's have you and Jonathan. You're DMing. Jonathan's opening up a lock, and he successfully opens it. And you say, "Uh-oh, I'm going to use the dark side."
I'm gonna flip a token on the other side of the door that you didn't hear before. Is that bounty hunter that you met at the front door, and now
his
you got a
buddy.
problem.
It's like a bad wish. It's like a wish
Yeah.
gone wrong in Pathfinder. Oh no.
Yeah.
Usable at any time, which is great too, because that's frightening.
And Jonathan,
Frightening.
give us. You flip it right back at it. Can you flip it on the same turn?
You would have to flip it on your turn, but yeah, you can upgrade dice, downgrade dice. It's more fun if it's
Yeah, the most
narrative stuff,
the
but-
most common way that we use it is Jeff will use it to upgrade a dice, and then we can't. So the cool thing is what I can't do is then flip it right back and downgrade the dice that Jeff
Right. You have to upgrade your own.
But I can upgrade my own, right?
Right.
And then another cool use of it is sometimes you need to activate certain talents on your talent tree or force powers if you're Jedi characters. Another cool thing is if you're in a situation where it's like, oh man, if only I had this hydro spanner, right? If only I had this really important tool that works perfectly for this, the GM can say, well, if you flip a destiny point, I'll let you have that item. You can say that you took it with you, and suddenly you have it, right?
Cool.
Suddenly you make something, so it's not game breaking, because then the flow of the dark side goes back to the GM to do something later on, where your gun explodes, or
Evil things.
You
Now,
know.
Jeff, I was thinking there might be a house rule in our game. I really enjoy Blades in the Dark, and it's a newer system out there. I was just a player. Our friend Kurt ran it. It was amazing. And there's one mechanic in there, the stress mechanic. And if you stress out, you can basically change something in the present. So yesterday, I saw that guard in the street, and I paid him this much money, and basically he knows me, and he's going to let me in now. But that requires him to stress completely out. I was thinking about basing it on these light and dark side points, potentially.
Yeah.
Being able to spend that. We will have one character in our campaign who becomes force sensitive. She is force sensitive. So, for example, she wants to move something. She's just going to flip that light side dice to the dark side, right? And
Well,
say
she'll
she does-
roll the force die to be able to try and use the power, and hopefully she gets enough light side that she's able to use that force power. There are force trees for every single force power in the game. As a Jedi, if you want to be good at something, then you're not going to have 10 force powers. You can be like good at move and good at influence. And so you roll
this
the
one's
force.
very powerful. We're not going to give any secrets away, but it's called Not Another New Hope. So
Yes.
this person's going to have a crap ton of power that she has no idea how to use.
Perfect. So you roll that force die, and if you use any of the dark pips, because they have dark side and light side pips on the die, if you use any dark side pips to generate successes for what you're trying to do, then you would need to flip over one of the destiny tokens. You're supposed to flip one over for every dark side pip you used, but we thought that was a little overkill, and I wanted to encourage some of our Jedi characters to use the dark side more because it's more fun narratively. But then they also generate conflict too, which is falling to the dark side, staying on the light, and all that kind of stuff. So you have to roll the force die to use your force power, and if they're all light side, or you only use light side, because you don't have to use any of the pips. If they're only light side, then you don't generate any conflict, and you don't have to flip a destiny
Fantastic.
token over.
Yeah, we might retool that system a little bit, but we'll let everybody know how we do that.
Yeah.
I'm really looking forward to this. This is a lot of fun. This is a good overview. Did we get a good overview, Brett?
I think so. Yeah.
We did. Jonathan?
Thanks, Jeff.
He's going to be a good player?
Jeff makes it clear as crystal.
Jeff is also going to make an appearance in our pilot episode of Not Another New Hope. Woohoo! We love that.
I'm excited.
So look forward to that. Is there anything that we missed? We need to talk about this
sure there's a
galaxy
lot.
map. I mean, do we need to talk about that mess? Look at this thing. What is going on?
Luckily, space travel's pretty streamlined too.
Oh my god. And for a little bit, there were invaders in this galaxy from another galaxy, but pretty much it's just this galaxy from a long, long time ago.
Yep.
Really, really far away, where Wookiees and Transdoshans get along.
Oh no.
Wrong galaxy? Okay.
Yeah. No.
This just in, they don't.
I'm sure it'll be fine.
They're best buds. No?
Yeah.
Brett?
They're best buds.
Best buds.
Those guys love each other.
Yeah.
Jeff, for example, what would you do? I was afraid somebody's going to make a Wookiee because we have a Transdojan trader basically in our group. What would you do if you had a Transdojan and Wookiee in the same group?
You talk to both the players, I would assume, and like make sure, okay, antagonistic stuff is fine. Don't make the game weird. But
Smash that subscribe, rate, review, follow, and like. Thanks. We appreciate that.